time I do, it makes me
Erase your memories of those events.
Somebody tell me why!
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. I feel like I should apologize for that intro, but I'm not sure if it's because of Nickelback or the fact that this is a serious episode. I just had to do it!
every time I do, it makes me.
Last time on Treknalysis, I talked about the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, The Measure of a Man, which brought up Data's rights as an android. But of course, what's a discussion about android rights in Star Trek without mention of holograms?
Well, this is certainly a brilliant feat of engineering.
While my brain went to the Voyager episode Author, I got a request for the Season 5 episode Latent Image, an episode that I probably only saw once before and didn't remember a whole bunch about. Not unlike the doc in this episode, so okay, I need to cover more Voyager episodes on Treknalysis anyways. And more episodes outside of Season 2. Today on Treknalysis, it's Latent Image, where the holo-doc's photography hobby reveals some hidden secrets.
I didn't choose this. Leave me alone. Let me go!
On the next Star Trek Voyager.
But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard. It's picture day on Voyager, and the doc is getting some easy money. Actually, it's a new part of the holo-doc's yearly physical, so he'll have a full 3D image of the patient all the way down to the subatomic level.
Big smile. Oh, no, not that big. Yeah, that's nice, yes.
But not so crazy about this is young Naomi Wildman, the only kid born on Voyager. Technically Tom Paris and Captain Janeway's lizard babies were born on another planet.
I don't know how I'm going to enter this into the log.
The doc tries to assuage Naomi's fears by posing for the camera himself to prove it's safe. Which, considering he's a hologram and not flesh and blood, doesn't really prove anything.
Try to hold still, please.
Are you making fun of me?
The doc has come a long way from the early seasons when he was criticized for having a poor bedside manner. Good bedside manner wasn't in his programming. But since then, he's explored beyond the limits of his programming, developing a personality, hobbies, and even friendships among the crew. And he does a pretty good job setting Naomi at ease. It's not unlike Data's journey to discover his humanity in TNG, only with a lot more snark. But now it's Harry Kim's turn, and the doc demonstrates his new modeling program. Well, I don't need to see any more. Give that man a promotion!
I didn't notice the little box on my chair.
But the doc finds scarring on the back of Harry's skull from an operation. An operation he did. An operation he doesn't remember!
I don't remember performing it.
Everyone on board Voyager has had their yearly physical. Except the captain. So the doc stops by the ready room to give Janeway her exam. Who's none too pleased since she was enjoying her coffee. You're taking your life into your own hands, Doc!
Endocrine functions functioning.
That's a relief.
I got one word for you, Doctor. Tuvix. The whole interaction between them feels very odd. Janeway is particularly standoffish and unconcerned with the doc, and she usually isn't. Unless I completely missed it during my initial watching of Voyager, one of the things that set Janeway apart from the other Star Trek captains was her emotional availability, since they were all stranded in the Delta Quadrant. So this scene feels particularly off. And then the conversation gets even more uncomfortable when the doc brings up Harry's mystery surgery from about 18 months ago. And then completely slows to a halt when he mentions he might need a diagnostic.
Let's make sure you're next up on the list. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, she's totally in on it. Well, since Harry and B'Elanna are too busy, the doc asks Seven for some help, but she's also standoffish. But what else is new?
I'm here to ask you a favor.
Another time. Also, the brown jumpsuit. Don't get me wrong, Seven looks great on the show, but her brown suit was never a favorite of mine.
Evidence that I performed surgery on Ensign Kim a year and a half ago.
Hold on! Can he just tell Seven about Harry's medical records like that? So doctor-patient confidentiality or HIPAA are no longer a thing? Apparently not! Well, okay, Seven's a little busy at the moment, but she'll help the doc in about an hour.
Later.
Seven sachets into sickbay as requested and is ready to work.
I never asked you to run a diagnostic.
Excuse me?
I wanted you to help me run a self-diagnostic.
Oh, and Harry's holo image is completely gone, as well as the doc's short-term memory? In fact, deleted? Oh yeah, totally normal.
If I were given to paranoia, I'd say someone is trying to keep me from finding out what happened 18 months ago.
You think? In fact, the doc was quite a shutterbug 18 months ago, and hey, what happened to all his photos? They've been deleted too. But hey, at least Seven's able to piece a couple of the photos together. Granted, with the quality of a Sega CD, but it's better than nothing. We have a party, a group shot, a candid shot of happy times.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh.
And also a weird ship and a weird alien. Also featured in the photos is an ensign that the doc doesn't even remember, but clearly knows in these pictures. And even weirder is that the doc's memories weren't deleted. He's just been denied access to them. What the hell's going on? Seven manages to restore the doc's memories, which trigger a bunch of jumbled flashbacks. A birthday party, a shuttle mission, an attack, injury, even a funeral.
Call the captain.
The doc did a little bit of digging, and the aliens are completely unknown, and the mysterious ensign is Ensign Jatal. Not to be confused with Jatrell from season 1, but I can understand why you'd be confused because I kept messing it up. The doc suspects that Jatal might have been an alien posing as a human crew member, and floats the idea that there was an attack on Voyager which resulted in their memories being erased. Okay, they're totally in on it!
If I were given the paranoia, I'd say someone is trying to keep me from finding out what happened 18 months ago.
Janeway orders scans to be made, and while the doc is willing to help, she orders him to deactivate so he can't be compromised. It's for your own good, Doc!
You will keep me informed.
Absolutely.
I don't believe you. And apparently, neither does the doc, because before he deactivated himself, he backed up his memory, set up his camera to record anyone walking into sickbay while he's offline, and orders that he be reactivated with his restored memories if anyone alters his program. Which turns out to be completely justified because someone did indeed delete his files. And it was Janeway all along.
Could your holo imager have misinterpreted the scans?
Possibly.
Now, I do like the idea that the deletion is shown via computer screen reflection. It's kind of clever, but it does have its problems. We see the sickbay doors open, but no reflection of the culprit. In fact, because I forgot how the episode went, I thought it was going to turn out that the culprit was invisible, but nope, just Janeway. So my question is, how did she enter sickbay without her reflection being shown on the monitor? Did she crawl into sickbay? Did she sneak around the corner of the door? Or does Vampire Beverly have a vampire buddy? Meanwhile, on the bridge, some flirty shenanigans.
Believe me, I was there.
So was I.
Oh, just kiss already! Seriously, how those two didn't get together is beyond me. The comfortable posture, the familiar way they speak, they might as well have been married for 5 years at this point. But the doc walks onto the bridge to accuse Janeway in front of everyone, which usually doesn't end well.
Doesn't anyone see that this is wrong?
You're conspiring against me, all of you. Why?
Janeway reveals that yes, she did indeed tamper with the doc's program, but there was a good reason. There was indeed an attack, but the doc was damaged in it, and the only way to protect him and everyone on board was to deny him access to his memories. The doc, understandably, feels violated, asking Janeway how she would feel if she was operated on without her consent.
If the operation saved my life, I could live with it.
I can live with it.
I mean, she does have a point, but she could have been a whole lot more upfront about it. But now, Janeway has no choice. The doc's program needs to be rewritten, and he has no say in it because it's a command decision. Now, this is a common Voyager trope where they end up in a really crappy situation without Starfleet to advise them, and every available option is terrible. Ultimately, a painful, sometimes arguably unethical, decision is made in order to save members of the crew. Heck, I even sympathize with Janeway's decision in Tuvix because it was a really crappy situation with a lot of unknowns, and she opted to save the lives of 2 members of her crew over saving 1 life. I certainly don't come down hard on her for it like a lot of people do.
The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Here, I feel like Janeway made a tough decision to save the Doc and the crew, but went about it the wrong way. I really don't like that she hid all this from the Doc and doesn't even bother to explain the situation to him. He understandably feels betrayed, and now he won't stop until he finds out what happened, which was the exact thing she was trying to avoid. It kind of reminds me of Data in the TNG episode Clues, except it was Data keeping the entire ship in the dark to protect them, where this is the entire crew keeping the Doc in the dark. But even so, Picard started to doubt Data's trustworthiness, even though he was under orders to protect the crew. Not only has the Doc's suspicions been confirmed, but Janeway's completely overruling his right to know what happened and what was done to him. And clearly, none of this sits well with anyone being ordered to rewrite the Doc's program. Seven, Chakotay, and especially Tom, though ultimately they agree with the captain's decision.
I was there, and yes, I agree with her.
Heck, I almost feel as bad for Tom in this scene as I do the Doc. It's 2 a.m. Do you know where your 7 of 9 is?
I told you last night, no!
7, disturbed by everything going on with the Doc, barges into Janeway's quarters at 2 a.m. after grappling with the nature of individuality and demands answers. Well, Janeway actually grappled with the Doc's rights as an individual 18 months ago and again today. And her original order still stands. The Doc is getting rewritten.
Coffee. Black. Lukewarm?
Oh no, it's 2 a.m. Janeway's already ornery, and her coffee is lukewarm. I mean, if there are mean drunks out there, then Janeway's mean decaffeinated tired lady, because guess what? The Doc is just a program.
Data is an extraordinary piece of engineering, but it is a machine.
The Doctor is more like that replicator than he is like us.
Janeway simply can't risk it. The Doc would be a danger to himself and possibly the rest of the crew if she doesn't rewrite his program. 7 disagrees, though. She herself was a risk when she was brought on board, but she was allowed to explore her individuality.
You're a human being. He's a hologram.
Well, yes, technically 7 is human, but she still has Borg components. In fact, she points out that part of her isn't too different from the replicator Janeway just compared the Doc to. So, will Janeway eventually abandon her the way she's abandoning the Doctor? Janeway also allowed the Doctor to explore his individuality, but now that it's getting too risky, she's going to strip him of his right to his individuality.
I have always looked to you as my example, my guide to humanity. Perhaps I've been mistaken.
There's definitely parallels here between the Doc's rights as an individual and Data's in the measure of a man. But where there was an entire hearing to determine whether Data was an individual who could refuse Maddox's request to be deconstructed, the Doc isn't even getting that chance. There's only one law in Voyager, and it's Janeway's law. She's the judge, jury, and executioner. But 7 does seem to have gotten through to her.
At the very least, you deserve to know exactly what happened.
Well, finally!
Here's what happened.
Ensign Jital was a well-liked member of the crew, even got her own surprise party. And she, Harry Kim, and the Doc were assigned to an away mission together, with the Doc's holo-imager. Then the unknown aliens attacked, beamed on board, and shot a weird phaser at the 3 of them. The Doc managed to beam the intruder back to his ship while he attended to Jital and Harry. Voyager arrives just in time to repel the attack and beam the 3 of them to sickbay, but Harry's and Jital's injuries were very strange. Synaptic shock, but no nervous system damage. The Doc quickly came up with a way to treat them, but he only had time to save one of them.
Then make a choice before we lose them both.
Wait a minute! Why couldn't he just put one of them into stasis? That is a thing in Star Trek! I know, we need a dilemma. The Doc ultimately decided to save Harry, but Jital died. But even though the Doc was programmed to have a certain amount of detachment, he felt massively guilty that he couldn't save Jital, which surfaces later while the Doc is talking to Neelix.
Which patient has the greater chance of survival? That's the one I treat.
Harry and Jital had an equal chance of survival, so how do you choose which one to save? Flip a coin? Pick a card? And then he completely loses his in a feedback loop, the same thoughts plaguing him over and over again, and the only way to fix it was to rewrite his program.
2 patients, equal chances of survival, and I chose the one I was closer to?
And here we go again. So now we've reached an impasse. The Doc's original program and what he's become are at war with each other. Janeway begins to wonder if they're doing the right thing, simply ending the war before it has a chance to work itself out. A very prime directive argument from Catherine the Prime Suggestion Janeway.
We've seen what happens to him. In fact, we've seen it twice.
Wait a minute! You mean this is the only time you've actually told him what happened? So it's not like you've gone through this cycle 100 times and it's hopeless, he's always going to end up in a feedback loop? You didn't even think to try telling him in the first place, especially with all the ethical issues involving it? And what's the worst that could happen? You reset his program again, but at least you know you did the best you could.
There was no way to save him.
You didn't even try.
Now, if anything, this feedback loop was the Doc's next step to discovering his humanity. People have similar internal conflicts and regrets with the choices we make in our lives. We get those nagging thoughts that keep looping over and over again, and we learn how to deal with them. That's being human. But the Doc's being denied the chance to learn how to cope with it and grow. Even bad memories contribute to who we are. Heck, that's one of the strongest points of Star Trek V.
They're the things we carry with us, the things that make us who we are. If we lose them, we lose ourselves. I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain.
Yes, I know Star Trek V gets a lot of crap, but it had its moments.
What are you standing around for? Do you not know a jailbreak when you see one?
By denying him access to his memory, Janeway is denying the Doc a basic part of existence.
We gave him a soul, B'Elanna.
See, part of what I liked about Measure of a Man was that whether Data has a soul or not is left up to the interpretation of the viewer and their beliefs. It's nuance and it's making you think about something, which is what Trek does best. This is basically telling you what to think, though B'Elanna does push back on it a little bit.
We gave him personality subroutines. I'd hardly call that a soul.
Unless he's got soul.
That old black magic has me in its spell.
Oh, I see how it is. You don't want to be disturbed at 2 a.m., but you can go ahead and wake Seven up for the exact same thing.
Did you wake me up?
Janeway asks Seven if what she did for her, separating her from the collective and allowing her to explore her individuality, even with all the difficulties that came with it, was worth it.
If I could change what happened, erase what you did to me, would I? No.
Now, can I go back to bed? The Doc's program wasn't rewritten. Instead, over the next 2 weeks, the crew takes shifts caring for him, keeping him company on the holodeck and listening to him. And yeah, he's still having a tough time coming to terms with everything that's happened and launching into full philosophical rants.
You can't help but have starships and holodecks and chicken soup because it was all determined 20 billion years ago.
Meanwhile, Janeway's been reading the Mislinking book. Well, that's one way to make your escape. Actually, it's some poetry to help the Doc through all of this. La Vita Nuova by Dante, which is apparently about courtly love in the medieval era, and yeah, I haven't read it. Poetry really isn't my thing.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
The Doc's still beating himself up over every decision he's ever made that ultimately led to Jital's death.
I can't live with the knowledge of what I've done. I can't.
Alright. From what I've read about La Vita Nuova, part of it is about Dante's limitations. And that's what the Doc needs to come to terms with. He did the best he could. He made a split-second decision and saved one life rather than none. Even if he's capable of more than his biological crewmates, he still has limitations, just like everyone else.
My brother is a human being after all.
But Janeway is coming down with a fever, and the Doc springs into action to tell her to go to sickbay. While she doesn't want to leave while her friend still needs help, Janeway eventually yields and leaves. Alone for the first time in 2 weeks, the Doc reaches for Janeway's copy of La Vita Nuova, finally finding comfort and solace in words written centuries ago.
Here begins a new life.
And that was Latent Image. While it focuses more on the Doc's individuality and journey to becoming more human, it does have some similarities to The Measure of a Man. Both Data and the holo-doc explore different aspects of humanity, which isn't an issue until convenience becomes an issue. But both episodes show that even though they're artificial life forms, they still have the right to explore aspects of their humanity, and that right shouldn't be taken away so easily. Heck, the Doc's memories were restricted without his even knowing. He couldn't fight back on it. Where Data had his captain to back him up and defend his rights, Janeway was an active threat to the Doc's rights. Now, I'm not one of those fans who criticize Janeway's decisions. Again, a lot of her questionable decisions are mostly because the situation was already crappy. But it felt like she could have tried harder to help the Doc when the initial incident occurred, rather than being guilt-tripped by Seven 18 months later into doing something else besides rewriting his program. Not to mention, there's also the matter of her hiding everything from him and giving him no say whatsoever. Nevertheless, I enjoyed revisiting Latent Image. It's a solid Doc episode with a mystery during the first half and a moral dilemma during the second. It's an episode worth remembering. Everyone, say cheese.
Every time I do, it makes me.
So what did you think of Latent Image? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of Janeway's initial decision to restrict the Doc's memories? Did she make the right call? Did she make the right call 18 months later? And what are some of your favorite hologram episodes of Star Trek? Please leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
You too, Tuvok.